This is what was happening in Edward Parsons' neighborhood just days before he fled Khartoum. Fighting broke out mid-April in Sudan between two military factions. Parsons and his family holed up in their home for 8 days as airstrikes and artillery fire rattled their windows.
My daughter now can tell the difference between an AK-47, a PKM, and a 12-7 just by the sounds of it. And that's not something I really wanted my 7-year-old daughter to have to know.
Parsons is no stranger to war zones. Originally from Birtle, Manitoba, he lived in Africa for decades, working as a medical rescue specialist in hotspots, mostly Somalia. His wife, a Japanese national, works for the UN, but Parsons says this conflict hit him differently as a father.
It's not so much for myself. My daughter, at a checkpoint, we had the soldiers open fire on a vehicle that was behind our vehicle that she was in. And I mean, that's, of course, traumatizing for a 7-year-old. She had a riding helmet, so she put her own helmet on and jumped onto the floor.
The family finally got out of Khartoum with help from the UN. They joined a 1,000-kilometer convoy to Port Sudan. Hundreds of people, from hardened veterans to newborn babies, loaded into buses, trucks, and personal vehicles, sometimes at risk of looters and gangs. The grueling trip took 33 hours.
We stuffed some things in a suitcase or two, so we escaped with a couple of bags of key documents and keepsakes. Others lost everything.
Friends in Port Sudan helped the family board a Japanese cargo plane to Djibouti, where Japan put them on a flight to Tokyo. Now safe, the dark reality is sinking in.
I guess we should be very thankful for how things worked out for us and for those who we know have gotten out safe. But I think we're still at the point where we're dwelling on the unknowns and the people we are missing.
The family constantly checks social media for people who've lost touch. The stress is giving their daughter nightmares. Parsons is grateful for the help they got from the UN and Japan, but wishes his own country had shown more commitment. The Canadian embassy closed quickly after fighting began, and Parsons says Canada made no effort to contact them or help them get out.
Canada has a long history of helping other countries, and for them to kind of pull a no-show when the Canadians who were doing these things were in trouble, it was somewhat disappointing.
Global Affairs Canada did arrange for 6 flights out of Sudan, but only after Parsons had already left. It says Canadians should make their own way to Port Sudan, where commercial travel might be available. A small team of Canadian troops are stationed there, but only a little longer. Parsons heads back to work in Somalia next week. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.